Every morning as the first rays of sunlight peeked over the rooftops of Maple Street, a small diner nestled on the corner came alive. The smell of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the aroma of sizzling bacon, creating an inviting atmosphere that drew in both regulars and newcomers alike. For years, this unassuming little diner had been a hub of activity, where people from all walks of life gathered to share meals, stories, and laughter. But among the bustling crowd, there was one face that stood out, a shy black girl named Maya. Maya was 12 years old with big brown eyes that seemed to hold secrets too heavy for someone her age. Every weekday, without fail, she would walk into the diner at exactly 7:30 a.m., wearing the same oversized coat and carrying a worn-out school bag slung over her shoulder. She always chose the same seat by the window, close enough to watch the world outside but far enough to avoid drawing attention to herself. Her routine never changed. She'd order a plain bagel and a cup of hot chocolate, then sit quietly, nibbling slowly while staring out at the street. The waitress who served Maya each morning was a middle-aged woman named Linda. With her warm smile and gentle demeanor, Linda had a way of making everyone feel welcome. Over the months, she began noticing subtle details about Maya that others might have missed. For instance, Maya always counted her coins carefully before paying, sometimes even hesitating as if unsure whether she had enough. Occasionally, she'd glance around the room nervously as though afraid someone might judge her for being there. Yet despite these signs of struggle, Maya carried herself with quiet dignity, never complaining or asking for anything more than what she ordered. Linda couldn't help but feel drawn to the girl. There was something about Maya's resilience that touched her deeply. Though Maya rarely spoke beyond a soft thank you when her food arrived, Linda sensed that behind her silence lay a story worth hearing. So, without saying a word, Linda decided to do what she could to make Maya's mornings just a little brighter. At first, it started with small gestures, slipping an extra piece of toast onto her plate, or adding a dollop of whipped cream to her hot chocolate. Then one day, Linda left a handwritten note under Maya's napkin dispenser. It read simply, "You're stronger than you think." When Maya found the note later that morning, her eyes widened in surprise. She looked up quickly, scanning the room until her gaze landed on Linda, who gave her a reassuring nod from across the counter. A faint smile tugged at the corners of Maya's lips before she tucked the note into her pocket, clutching it like a treasure. From that moment on, their interactions became slightly warmer. While Maya still kept mostly to herself, she no longer seemed quite so guarded whenever Linda approached her table. As weeks turned into months, Linda continued finding ways to support Maya. Sometimes it was leaving another encouraging note. Other times it was ensuring Maya's meal came with a side of fruit or a pastry she hadn't ordered. Each act of kindness was small, almost imperceptible to anyone else. But to Maya, they meant the world. Slowly but surely, a bond began forming between them, a silent understanding that transcended words. Despite the growing connection, however, neither Linda nor Maya realized just how significant their relationship would become. Life in the diner carried on as usual, filled with its typical rhythm of clinking dishes and cheerful chatter. Regular customers joked with Linda, teasing her about her obsession with keeping everything spotless. Tourists passing through town marveled at the cozy charm of the place, often leaving glowing reviews online. And yet, amidst all this normalcy, something extraordinary was brewing, something neither Linda nor Maya could have anticipated. Crisp autumn morning, as golden leaves swirled in the wind outside, Maya walked into the diner as she always did. But this time, something caught her eye before she even reached the door. Parked directly in front of the diner was a sleek silver Rolls-Royce, its polished surface gleaming under the pale sunlight. Maya froze mid-step, her heart skipping a beat. Cars like that didn't belong on Maple Street. They were reserved for movie stars and millionaires, not the sleepy little neighborhood where she lived. Who could possibly own such a car? And why were they here of all places? Curiosity gnawed at her as she pushed open the diner door and stepped inside. The warmth of the room enveloped her instantly, but her unease lingered. As she slid into her usual seat by the window, she noticed a man sitting not far away. He was impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, his posture confident and commanding. His presence alone commanded attention, and yet he seemed oddly out of place in the humble diner. When Linda greeted him with a polite smile, the man glanced briefly around the room before his eyes settled on Maya. Their gazes locked for a split second, and Maya felt a strange chill run down her spine. She quickly looked away, focusing instead on the menu propped up against the salt shaker. But try as she might, she couldn't shake the feeling that the man was watching her. What did he want? Why was he here? And most importantly, why did his gaze feel so familiar? By the time Linda brought Maya her breakfast, the tension in the air was palpable. "Are you okay?" Linda asked softly, leaning closer to whisper so only Maya could hear. Maya nodded, though her trembling hands betrayed her anxiety. "Do you know him?" Linda pressed gently, nodding toward the man. Maya hesitated, her voice barely above a whisper. "No, but I've seen him before," she admitted. "I think—" Her sentence trailed off, unfinished as tears welled up in her eyes. Confused and concerned, Linda followed Maya's gaze to the man, who was now sipping his coffee while jotting notes in a leather-bound notebook. Something about him struck Linda as unsettling, though she couldn't quite pinpoint why. All she knew was that this stranger's arrival had disrupted the delicate balance of Maya's world. And whatever happened next, it wouldn't be ordinary. Unbeknownst to either of them, fate had set its wheels in motion. Little did they know, the man's presence signaled the beginning of a journey that would change their lives forever. The next morning, the Rolls-Royce was still parked outside the diner, gleaming under the soft light of dawn. Maya hesitated before stepping inside, her heart pounding as she scanned the room. Sure enough, the man in the tailored suit was already seated at the same table, sipping his coffee and scribbling furiously in his leather-bound notebook. His presence seemed even more pronounced today, almost like he was deliberately trying to blend into the background but failing miserably. Linda noticed Maya's hesitation and gave her a reassuring smile from behind the counter, silently encouraging her to take her usual seat by the window. As Maya settled into her chair, she couldn't help but glance nervously at the man every few minutes. He didn't seem to notice, or maybe he was pretending not to, but there was an undeniable tension in the air. It wasn't just curiosity gnawing at Maya now. It was fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of what this stranger might want, and fear that somehow he was connected to the fragmented memories she had buried deep inside herself. Linda watched the scene unfold with growing concern. She could see how uneasy Maya was, her hands trembling slightly as she reached for her bagel. Something about the man unsettled Linda too, though she couldn't put her finger on why. Was it his polished appearance? The way he carried himself, with such quiet authority? Or was it simply the fact that his arrival coincided with Maya's sudden unease? Determined to get answers, Linda approached the man cautiously during a lull in the morning rush. Balancing a fresh pot of coffee in one hand, she forced a polite smile and asked, "Refill?" The man looked up from his notebook, startled by her interruption. For a moment their eyes met, and Linda felt a flicker of recognition pass between them, a fleeting sense of familiarity she couldn't explain. "Yes, thank you," he replied, his voice calm but tinged with sadness. As Linda poured the coffee, she decided to take a chance. "If you don't mind me asking," she began gently, "what brings you here so often? You're not exactly a regular around these parts." The man chuckled softly, though it lacked humor. He glanced toward Maya briefly before turning back to Linda. "I'm waiting for someone," he said after a pause. His words were measured, as if carefully chosen to reveal just enough without giving too much away. "Waiting for who?" Linda pressed, her curiosity outweighing her caution. She gestured subtly toward Maya, who was staring intently at her plate, pretending not to listen. "Does it have something to do with her?" For a long moment the man didn't respond. He stared down at his notebook, his fingers tracing the edges of its pages. Finally he sighed and leaned back in his chair. "Maybe," he admitted quietly. but I can't be sure yet. Linda frowned, her mind racing with questions. What did he mean by waiting? And why did he seem so fixated on Maya? Before she could ask anything else, the man stood abruptly, leaving a crisp $20 bill on the table, despite having only ordered a single cup of coffee. "Thank you for your hospitality," he said politely before heading toward the door. As he passed Maya's table, he paused for a fraction of a second, his gaze lingering on her face. Then, without another word, he stepped outside and climbed into his Rolls-Royce, driving away as silently as he had arrived. That night, after closing up the diner, Linda found herself unable to stop thinking about the man, or about Maya. There was something haunting about the way they interacted, or rather didn't interact. It was as if they were two pieces of a puzzle that refused to fit together, yet somehow belonged side by side. Unable to shake the feeling that she needed to understand more, Linda decided to talk to Maya directly. When Maya walked into the diner, the following morning, Linda greeted her with her usual warmth, but waited until the breakfast rush had died down before pulling up a chair across from her. "Maya, honey," she began softly, "can I ask you something?" Maya looked up from her hot chocolate, her big brown eyes filled with apprehension. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You know that man who's been coming here lately? The one in the fancy car?" Linda continued. When Maya nodded reluctantly, Linda pressed on. "Do you recognize him? Does he mean anything to you?" Maya froze, her hands gripping the edge of the table tightly. Tears welled up in her eyes as she struggled to find the right words. I don't know," she stammered finally. "But sometimes when I look at him, it feels like I should remember something important." Linda reached across the table and placed a comforting hand over Maya's. "It's okay if you're scared," she said gently. "But sometimes, remembering things, even painful ones, is the first step toward healing." Maya nodded slowly, though her expression remained troubled. "He reminds me of someone," she confessed after a long silence. "Someone I used to know a long time ago. But I thought he was gone forever." Her words sent a chill down Linda's spine. Could it be possible? Could the mysterious man really be connected to Maya's past? The idea seemed far-fetched, yet everything about the situation pointed in that direction. Determined to uncover the truth, Linda promised Maya that she would stand by her no matter what happened. "We'll figure this out together," she assured her. "You're not alone." Over the next few days, the man returned to the diner every morning, always sitting in the same spot and ordering the same drink. Each time he would glance at Maya discreetly, his expression unreadable. Maya, meanwhile, grew increasingly anxious, her once quiet demeanor replaced by visible distress. She barely touched her food, and her grades at school began slipping as her thoughts became consumed by the mystery surrounding the man. One particularly tense morning, Linda decided it was time to confront the situation head-on. After serving the man his coffee, she pulled up a chair beside him and sat down, her determination evident in her posture. "Sir," she began firmly, "I need to ask you something, and I hope you'll answer honestly." The man raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised by her boldness. "Of course," he replied, setting his pen aside. "What is it?" Linda took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. "You've been coming here for days now, always watching that girl, Maya. Who are you to her, and why are you so interested in her?" For a moment, the man said nothing. He stared at Linda, his piercing gaze searching hers as if weighing whether or not to trust her. Finally, he let out a heavy sigh and leaned forward, lowering his voice. "My name is Daniel," he said, "and Maya is my daughter." The revelation hit Linda like a ton of bricks. Her jaw dropped, and she struggled to process what she had just heard. "Your daughter?" she repeated, incredulous. "But how is that possible? Why hasn't she seen you before now?" Daniel's shoulders sagged under the weight of his guilt. "It's a long story," he admitted. "A very painful one. Years ago, when Maya was just a baby, her mother and I separated. Things got messy, too messy, and I made the mistake of walking away. I convinced myself it was better for everyone if I left, but I never stopped thinking about her. Every day since then, I've regretted my decision. I've spent years searching for her, hoping to make amends. And then, a few weeks ago, I stumbled upon this place. Something about it felt familiar, like a memory I couldn't quite grasp. So I started coming here, hoping against hope that maybe, just maybe, I'd find her. Linda listened in stunned silence, her heart breaking for both Maya and Daniel. She realized now why Maya had seemed so guarded, so hesitant to trust others. It stemmed from years of abandonment and loss. But she also saw the raw pain in Daniel's eyes, the desperate longing of a father who had made a terrible mistake and wanted nothing more than to fix it. Before she could respond, Maya appeared at the edge of the room, clutching her school bag tightly. She must have overheard part of the conversation because her wide eyes darted between Linda and Daniel, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Is it true?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Are you really my dad?" Daniel stood, slowly, his own eyes brimming with tears. "Yes, Maya," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "I am. And I'm so sorry." In that moment, the walls Maya had built around herself began to crumble. She rushed forward, throwing her arms around Daniel in a tearful embrace. Neither of them spoke. They simply held each other, the years of separation melting away in the warmth of their reunion. Linda watched from a distance, tears streaming down her own face as she witnessed the miracle unfolding before her eyes. Though the road ahead would undoubtedly be challenging, one thing was certain. Maya and Daniel had taken the first step toward healing. And thanks to Linda's kindness and persistence, they had found each other again. The reunion between Maya and Daniel was raw, emotional, and overwhelming, for both of them. As they stood in the middle of the diner, clinging to each other as if afraid the moment might slip away, Linda quietly slipped behind the counter to give them space. The room seemed to hold its breath, the usual hum of chatter and clinking dishes fading into the background. For a few precious minutes, it felt like time had stopped, leaving only the two of them in their own world. When the initial wave of emotion subsided, Daniel pulled back slightly to look at Maya, his hands still resting on her shoulders. "I've missed you every single day," he said, his voice trembling with sincerity. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want to try. If you'll let me." Maya's eyes filled with fresh tears as she searched his face, trying to reconcile the man standing before her with the distant memory of the father she barely remembered. "Why did you leave?" she asked softly, her voice breaking. "Didn't you love us?" Daniel flinched at the question, pain flashing across his features. He looked down for a moment, gathering his thoughts before meeting her gaze again. "I thought I was doing the right thing," he admitted. "Your mom and I, we weren't good together. We fought all the time, and I didn't want you to grow up in that kind of environment. I convinced myself that leaving would be better, for everyone, for you, especially. But I was wrong. So wrong." His voice cracked as he added, "Leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life." Maya didn't respond immediately. She stepped back, wrapping her arms around herself as if shielding against the flood of emotions threatening to overwhelm her. Part of her wanted to believe him, to accept his apology, and embrace the chance to have a father again. But another part of her, the part shaped by years of abandonment and hardship, wasn't ready to trust so easily. Seeing her hesitation, Daniel reached out tentatively, then dropped his hand when he realized she wasn't ready for physical contact. "I understand if you need time," he said gently. "I'm not asking for anything right now except the opportunity to prove myself, to show you that I'm here to stay this time." Linda, who had been observing silently from the sidelines, decided it was time to step in. She approached the pair cautiously, her presence offering a sense of stability amidst the emotional turmoil. "Maya," she said softly, placing a reassuring hand on the girl's shoulder, "you don't have to decide anything today. This is a lot to process, and it's okay to take your time. Maya nodded, grateful for Linda's calming influence. Turning back to Daniel, she managed a small, hesitant smile. "Can we talk more later?" she asked. "Maybe tomorrow?" Relief washed over Daniel's face, and he nodded eagerly. "Of course," he replied. "Whatever you need, Maya, just say the word." With that, the tension in the room began to ease slightly. Linda suggested they sit down and share a meal together, an idea that surprised even herself. It felt like a bold move given the fragile state of their relationship, but deep down, she believed food could serve as a bridge, a way to create a safe space for conversation without the weight of expectations. To her relief, both Maya and Daniel agreed. They settled into a booth near the window, where Linda brought them plates of pancakes, bacon, and scrambled eggs. At first, the silence between them was awkward, punctuated only by the occasional scrape of forks against plates. But slowly, tentatively, Daniel began sharing stories about his life after leaving, how he'd built a successful business, traveled the world, and yet never found fulfillment because of the void left by his absence from Maya's life. Maya listened intently, her expression unreadable. When he finished speaking, she hesitated for a moment before asking, "Do you think Mom knew where you were? Did she ever try to find you?" Daniel shook his head sadly. "No, she didn't. After we separated, I cut off all ties. Not just with her, but with everyone who reminded me of our life together. I thought it would make moving on easier, but instead, it isolated me. I realize now how selfish that was." Their conversation continued in fits and starts, each revelation bringing them closer while also highlighting the chasm of lost years between them. By the end of the meal, Maya seemed less guarded, though still cautious. She agreed to meet Daniel again the following morning, signaling a tentative willingness to rebuild their fractured bond. Over the next several days, Daniel became a regular fixture at the diner, joining Maya for breakfast each morning. Their interactions grew warmer, more natural, as they shared memories, laughter, and even tears. Linda watched from afar, her heart swelling with pride as she saw Maya beginning to open up to her father. It wasn't easy. There were moments of tension, misunderstandings, and lingering doubts, but both Maya and Daniel were committed to making things work. One morning, as Daniel sipped his coffee and Maya nibbled on her bagel, Linda approached, their table with a smile. "You two seem to be getting along well," she remarked cheerfully. "It's nice to see." Maya grinned shyly, glancing at her father. "Yeah, it's different," she admitted, "but in a good way." Daniel nodded in agreement. "I owe a lot of that to you, Linda," he said, turning to the waitress. "If it weren't for your kindness and your persistence, I wouldn't be sitting here today. Thank you for looking out for Maya when I couldn't." Linda waved off his gratitude with a modest laugh. "I didn't do much," she insisted. "Just tried to help where I could." But Daniel wasn't satisfied with letting her brush it off. Later that day, after Maya had gone to school, he approached Linda privately. "I mean it," he said, earnestly. "You've done something extraordinary for my daughter and for me. I want to repay you somehow." Linda hesitated, unsure how to respond. "You don't owe me anything," she replied. Helping Maya was its own reward. Daniel shook his head firmly. "That may be true, but I still want to do something. Let me pay for her education or set up a scholarship fund in your name. Anything to show my appreciation." Though Linda initially resisted, she eventually accepted his offer, not because she wanted recognition, but because she saw it as an opportunity to create lasting change. Together, they established a scholarship program aimed at supporting underprivileged children in the community, ensuring that others like Maya would have access to resources and opportunities they might otherwise lack. As weeks turned into months, Maya's life transformed in ways she never imagined. With Daniel back in her life, she no longer worried about money or struggled to afford basic necessities. He moved into town, renting a cozy apartment close to her school, and made an effort to be present for every milestone: parent-teacher conferences, school plays, and even weekend outings. Their relationship wasn't perfect. It took time to heal old wounds and rebuild trust. But the progress they made was undeniable. Through it all, Linda remained a constant presence in Maya's life. Daniel often joined them for meals at the diner, laughing and chatting like any other family. On special occasions, such as birthdays and holidays, he invited Linda to join them, insisting that she was part of their newfound family dynamic. Though she initially protested, claiming she didn't want to intrude, Linda eventually embraced the role, touched by their generosity and warmth. Years later, when Maya graduated top of her class and delivered a heartfelt speech thanking those who had supported her along the way, she singled out Linda specifically. "She taught me that kindness can change lives," Maya said, her voice steady and strong. "And she showed me that sometimes the smallest acts of compassion can lead to the greatest transformations." As the crowd erupted in applause, Linda wiped away a tear, feeling a profound sense of fulfillment. She had always known that helping others was important, but witnessing the ripple effect of her actions firsthand reinforced her belief in the power of human connection. Meanwhile, the diner itself became a local landmark, celebrated not just for its delicious food, but for the incredible story of redemption and resilience that unfolded within its walls. Tourists visiting Maple Street often stopped by, eager to hear tales of the shy black girl, the mysterious man in the Rolls Royce, and the compassionate waitress who brought them together. And through it all, Linda continued serving customers, with her signature warmth, knowing that every person who walked through the door carried their own unique story waiting to be told. As the months passed, Maya's life began to flourish in ways she had once only dreamed of. With Daniel back in her life, stability replaced uncertainty, and love filled the gaps left by years of absence. He enrolled her in extracurricular activities, encouraged her to pursue her passions, and celebrated every small victory as if it were monumental. For the first time, Maya felt like she belonged, not just to a family, but to a world that saw her potential and believed in her future. But Daniel wasn't the only one making an effort. Linda continued playing a vital role in Maya's journey, offering guidance and support whenever needed. Their bond had deepened over the months, evolving from waitress and customer to something resembling a mentor-mentee relationship. Linda often shared stories from her own life, about challenges she'd faced, lessons she'd learned, and moments when kindness from strangers had changed everything for her. These conversations inspired Maya, teaching her resilience and empathy while reinforcing the importance of paying it forward. One crisp spring morning, as Maya sat at her usual table with Daniel, Linda approached them carrying 2 steaming mugs of hot chocolate. "Thought you might need a little pick-me-up," she said with a wink, setting the drinks down on the table. "You've been working hard lately," Maya smiled gratefully, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. "Thanks, Linda, I really needed this." She glanced at Daniel, who nodded in agreement. "We've been talking about college applications," she explained. "It's exciting, but also kind of overwhelming." Daniel reached across the table to pat her hand reassuringly. "You'll do great, Maya. You're smart, determined, and capable of achieving anything you set your mind to." Linda chimed in, her tone warm and encouraging. "And remember, you don't have to figure it all out on your own. Your dad and I are here to help every step of the way." Her words eased some of the tension Maya had been feeling. Over the past few weeks, applying to colleges had become a source of stress, not because she doubted her abilities, but because she feared disappointing those who believed in her. Yet sitting there with Daniel and Linda, surrounded by their unwavering support, Maya felt a renewed sense of confidence. She realized that success wasn't just about individual achievement, it was about leaning on others during tough times and letting them lift you up. The diner itself underwent subtle changes during this period, reflecting the newfound joy radiating from its regular patrons. Daniel, eager to contribute, offered to renovate parts of the space, replacing worn-out furniture and adding fresh coats of paint. He even installed a small bulletin board near the entrance where customers could post community events, job opportunities, or messages of gratitude. One corner of the board quickly became dedicated to Maya's accomplishments, a collage of report cards, awards, and photos capturing milestones along her journey. Linda loved watching these transformations unfold. The diner had always been more than just a place to grab a meal. It was a sanctuary for people seeking comfort, connection, and hope. Now, under Daniel's influence, it was becoming a hub of positivity and possibility. Regulars began noticing. The shift too, commenting on how the atmosphere felt lighter, brighter, and more welcoming. Some even joked that the food tasted better now, a testament to the contagious energy filling the room. Despite the improvements, however, Linda refused to let the diner lose its humble charm. "This place is special because it's real," she told Daniel one evening after closing. "It doesn't need fancy decorations or expensive upgrades to make people feel at home. What matters most is the heart behind it, the care we put into everything we do." Daniel nodded thoughtfully, respecting her perspective. "You're right," he admitted. "I guess I just wanted to give back in some way. After everything you've done for Maya, and for me, I feel like I owe you so much." Linda laughed softly, waving away his gratitude. "You already gave us something priceless, a second chance that's worth more than any renovation." While Maya thrived academically and emotionally, Daniel worked tirelessly to rebuild his relationship with her. It wasn't always easy. There were days when old wounds resurfaced, testing their patience and trust. But both were committed to overcoming the obstacles together. They attended counseling sessions, read books on parenting and communication, and spent countless hours simply talking about their hopes, fears, and dreams. One Saturday afternoon, as they strolled through the park hand in hand, Maya turned to her father with a thoughtful expression. "Dad," she began hesitantly, "do you ever regret coming back? Like, what if things don't work out between us?" Daniel stopped walking, turning to face her fully. His eyes softened as he knelt down to meet her gaze. "Listen to me, Maya," he said firmly. "I will never regret finding you again, even if it takes years to fully heal. Even if we stumble along the way, I know that being here for you is the best decision I've ever made." Tears welled up in Maya's eyes as she hugged him tightly. In that moment, she understood that love wasn't about perfection. It was about showing up, staying present, and fighting for the people who mattered most. Back at the diner, Linda observed these developments with quiet pride. She knew firsthand how powerful forgiveness and redemption could be, having witnessed countless acts of grace within the diner's walls. From couples reuniting after arguments to estranged friends burying hatchets, the tiny establishment had seen its fair share of miracles, but none compared to the story of Maya and Daniel, a tale of loss, longing, and ultimately reconciliation. Inspired by their journey, Linda decided to host a special event at the diner, a gratitude night, inviting locals to share stories of kindness and transformation. Flyers went up around town, and soon enough the diner was packed with people eager to participate. Each speaker took turns recounting moments when someone's generosity had changed their lives, whether big or small. By the end of the evening, the room buzzed with laughter, tears, and applause, a reminder of the goodness still present in the world. When it came time for Linda to speak, she stepped onto the makeshift stage holding a framed photo of Maya and Daniel taken during one of their early breakfasts together. Her voice wavered slightly as she addressed the crowd. "This picture represents everything I believe in," she said, gesturing toward the image. "It shows how a single act of kindness can ripple outward, touching lives in ways we may never fully understand. Maya and Daniel remind me daily that no matter how broken things seem, healing is always possible, with love, patience, and faith." The audience erupted in applause, many rising to their feet in admiration. Among them stood Maya and Daniel, their arms wrapped around each other as they listened to Linda's heartfelt words. Though neither sought recognition, they couldn't deny the profound impact their reunion had on everyone around them, including themselves. Years later, when Maya graduated from college with honors and embarked on a career in social work, she credited much of her success to the lessons learned during those transformative years. Inspired by Linda's compassion and Daniel's perseverance, she dedicated her life to helping others navigate similar struggles, offering guidance, support, an unconditional belief in their potential. Meanwhile, the diner remained a cornerstone of Maple Street, beloved not just for its cozy charm but for the extraordinary stories woven into its fabric. Tourists flocked to see the famous booth where Maya and Daniel first reunited, snapping photos and leaving notes of inspiration on the community board. And though Linda eventually retired, passing the reins to a younger generation, her legacy endured, a testament to the power of kindness, courage, and human connection. Through it all, Maya carried Linda's words close to her heart. Sometimes, the smallest acts of compassion can lead to the greatest transformations. It was a truth she lived by, sharing it with anyone willing to listen, and proving time and again that love has the power to mend even the deepest wounds. Years passed, and the diner on Maple Street became more than just a place to grab a meal. It was a symbol of hope, resilience, and second chances. The story of Maya, Daniel, and Linda had spread far beyond the neighborhood, inspiring countless people who heard about the shy black girl, the mysterious man in the Rolls Royce, and the compassionate waitress who brought them together. But for Maya herself, life continued to unfold in ways she never imagined, each chapter building upon the foundation laid during those pivotal months at the diner. After graduating from college with honors, Maya embarked on a career in social work, driven by a desire to help others facing challenges similar to her own. Her childhood experiences, growing up without a father, struggling financially, and learning to trust again, shaped her approach to helping vulnerable families. She specialized in child welfare, working tirelessly to reunite estranged parents with their children whenever possible. "Every family deserves a chance to heal," she often said, echoing the lessons she'd learned from Linda and Daniel. Her first major case involved a young boy named Ethan, whose father had been incarcerated for years. When the father was released, early due to good behavior, he reached out to Ethan, hoping to rebuild their relationship. At first, Ethan rejected him outright, too angry and hurt to consider forgiveness. Maya saw parallels between Ethan's situation and her own past, and she approached the case with empathy and patience. Over several months, she facilitated meetings between father and son, encouraging open communication and mutual understanding. By the end of the process, Ethan agreed to give his father another chance, a decision that brought tears to both their eyes. Watching them embrace reminded Maya of the day she finally let herself hug Daniel after years of separation. It reinforced her belief that love, no matter how broken, could always find its way back. Meanwhile, Daniel threw himself into rebuilding not only his relationship with Maya, but also his connection to the community. He sold his lucrative business and invested in local initiatives aimed at supporting underprivileged families. One of his proudest achievements was establishing a mentorship program for teenagers, pairing them with adult role models who could guide them through difficult times. Many of these mentors came from the diner itself, regular customers like Linda, retired teachers, and former neighbors eager to make a difference. Daniel also made it a point to volunteer at Maya's workplace, whenever he could, assisting with fundraising events and offering free financial advice to struggling families. His presence became a familiar sight around town, earning him respect and admiration from those who once viewed him as an outsider. People marveled at how much he had changed since returning to Maya's life, not just materially, but emotionally. Gone was the distant, polished businessman. In his place stood a humble, caring father determined to leave a positive legacy. Despite their growing responsibilities, Maya and Daniel prioritized spending quality time together. Weekends were reserved for hiking trips, movie nights, or simply cooking dinner at home. These moments allowed them to strengthen their bond while creating new memories to replace the ones they had lost. On one such evening, as they sat side by side watching the sunset, Maya turned to her father and asked, "Do you ever think about what might have happened if we hadn't found each other again?" Daniel paused, considering the question carefully. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But then I remind myself that we did find each other, and because of that we have a chance to rewrite our story. That's something worth holding on to." Maya nodded thoughtfully, realizing how fortunate they were to have been given this opportunity. Not everyone got a second chance, but they had seized theirs with determination and grace. Back at the diner, Linda remained a steady presence in Maya's life, even as her own circumstances evolved. After decades of serving customers and spreading kindness, she decided it was time to retire. Though bittersweet, the transition felt natural, especially knowing that the diner would remain in capable hands. A young couple, Sarah and James, took over the business, promising to preserve its welcoming atmosphere and commitment to community service. They even kept the bulletin board Linda had introduced, renaming it the Wall of Hope in her honor. Linda's car. Retirement didn't mean she disappeared from Maya's life, though. If anything, their friendship grew stronger. She attended every milestone event, graduations, birthdays, and holidays, always bringing homemade pies and heartfelt speeches. Once, when Maya expressed doubts about whether she was making a real impact in her career, Linda pulled her aside and said firmly, "You're changing lives, Maya. Don't ever forget that." Her words stayed with Maya long after the conversation ended, fueling her resolve to keep pushing forward despite the challenges. Whether it was advocating for policy changes, organizing support groups, or simply listening to someone in need, Maya knew she was carrying on Linda's legacy of compassion and generosity. One summer afternoon, as Maya prepared for a charity gala honoring her work in child welfare, Daniel surprised her with a gift, a leather-bound journal identical to the one he used to carry. Inside the cover, he had inscribed a message. "For all the stories you'll write, and all the lives you'll touch." Tears welled up in Maya's eyes as she hugged him tightly. "Thank you, Dad," she whispered. "This means so much." That night, dressed in a sleek navy gown, Maya stood before a packed auditorium and delivered a speech that left everyone in awe. She spoke candidly about her journey, from the lonely days sitting by the diner window to the transformative reunion with her father. She credited Linda for showing her the power of kindness and Daniel for teaching her the importance of forgiveness. But most importantly, she emphasized the idea that no matter how broken or hopeless things may seem, redemption is always within reach. "When I was 12 years old, I walked into a diner feeling invisible," she began, her voice steady, yet filled with emotion. "I didn't know it at the time, but that little corner booth would become the starting point of my healing. It taught me that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can lead to the greatest transformations. And it showed me that love has the power to mend even the deepest wounds." As the audience erupted in applause, Maya scanned the room, her gaze landing on Linda and Daniel seated in the front row. Both were beaming with pride, their faces glowing with unshed tears. In that moment, Maya realized how interconnected their lives truly were, how each of them had played a vital role in shaping the person she had become. The following year marked a decade since Maya and Daniel's reunion, and they celebrated the milestone with a special gathering at the diner. Friends, family, and community members filled the cozy space, sharing laughter, stories, and gratitude. Even Sarah and James joined in, presenting Maya with a framed photo collage capturing highlights from her journey. Her first day at the diner, her graduation ceremony, and countless moments in between. At the center of the celebration stood Linda, now in her late 60s but still radiating warmth and wisdom. As she raised a glass to toast Maya and Daniel, her voice carried a mix of pride and nostalgia. 10 years ago, I witnessed something extraordinary happen right here in this diner," she said, her eyes twinkling. "A father and daughter found their way back to each other, proving that love knows no bounds. Today, I see two incredible individuals who inspire everyone around them to be better, to do better. To Maya and Daniel, thank you for reminding us what it means to truly care." The room erupted in cheers, glasses clinking as people toasted to love, forgiveness, and the enduring spirit of hope. For Maya, Daniel, and Linda, the evening wasn't just a celebration of the past. It was a promise to continue spreading kindness and making a difference in the world. As midnight approached and guests began heading home, Maya lingered behind, gazing fondly at the booth where it all began. The worn seat cushions bore the imprints of countless memories, each one a testament to the power of human connection. Turning to Daniel and Linda, she smiled softly and said, "This place will always feel like home to me, because it's where my story started and where yours became part of mine." With that, the trio stepped outside, bathed in the warm glow of streetlights. Above them, stars twinkled brightly against the night sky, casting a gentle light over Maple Street, a reminder that even in the darkest moments there is always a glimmer of hope waiting to shine through. The years rolled on, and the diner on Maple Street remained a cornerstone of the community, a living testament to the power of kindness, resilience, and second chances. Its walls bore witness to countless stories of hope and redemption, but none resonated as deeply as the tale of Maya, Daniel, and Linda. Their journey had become legend, passed down through generations of locals who frequented the diner, shared meals at its booths, and left messages of gratitude on the wall of hope. Yet for Maya, Daniel, and Linda themselves, life continued to evolve in ways that were both unexpected and profoundly meaningful. As Maya's career in social work flourished, she became a beacon of inspiration for others. Her dedication to helping families heal earned her national recognition, including an award from a prominent child advocacy organization. The ceremony took place in a grand ballroom filled with dignitaries, activists, and media representatives. Yet Maya remained humble, using her acceptance speech to shine a light on those who had shaped her path. "I didn't get here alone," she said, her voice steady and heartfelt. "I owe everything to two extraordinary people, my father, who taught me the importance of forgiveness, and Linda, who showed me that kindness can change lives. This award isn't just mine. It belongs to everyone who has ever believed in the possibility of a better tomorrow." Backstage after the event, Daniel hugged his daughter tightly, tears streaming down his face. "You've made me so proud, Maya," he whispered. "Not because of the accolades, but because of the person you've become." Linda, seated nearby with a tissue in hand, nodded in agreement. "You're proof that love and compassion can move mountains," she added, her voice thick with emotion. "Never stop being the incredible force you are." While Maya's professional achievements garnered attention, her personal life also blossomed in beautiful ways. In her late 20s, she met a man named Marcus, a teacher with a passion for mentoring underprivileged youth. Their connection was instant, sparked by shared values and a mutual desire to make a difference in the world. After 2 years of dating, Marcus proposed during a quiet evening at the diner, the very booth where Maya used to sit as a child, now adorned with flowers and candles. When Maya accepted, the entire room erupted in cheers. Regular customers clapped and whistled while Sarah and James served free slices of pie to celebrate the occasion. As Maya gazed around the room, taking in the familiar faces and warm smiles, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. This place wasn't just a diner. It was home, a sanctuary where dreams were born and lives transformed. A year later, Maya and Marcus married in a small outdoor ceremony, surrounded by loved ones. The reception returned to the diner, where friends and family danced, laughed, and toasted to the couple's future. Daniel gave a heartfelt speech recounting the long road that had led them to this moment. "When I first walked into this diner 10 years ago, I never imagined I'd find my daughter, or that she would teach me how to be a better man," he said, choking back tears. "Today, I see her standing beside someone who loves her deeply, and I know she'll continue inspiring everyone lucky enough to cross her path." Linda followed with a toast of her own, raising her glass high. "To Maya and Marcus, may your love grow stronger with each passing day, and may you always remember the lessons you've learned along the way: forgiveness, kindness, and the courage to keep moving forward." In the years that followed, Maya and Marcus welcomed their first child, a baby girl they named Evelyn. Holding her newborn daughter for the first time, Maya felt a surge of emotions she couldn't quite put into words. She thought about her own childhood, the loneliness, the struggles, and the eventual triumphs, and vowed to give Evelyn a life filled with love, stability, and opportunity. Daniel, now a doting grandfather, spent hours rocking Evelyn to sleep, singing lullabies and sharing stories of his own mistakes and redemption. "Your mom is the strongest person I know," he told the wide-eyed infant one afternoon. "And someday, when you're older, I'll tell you all about how she changed our lives." Linda, too, embraced her role as a surrogate grandmother, spoiling Evelyn with homemade cookies and endless cuddles. Though her body had slowed with age, her spirit remained as vibrant as ever. On Evelyn's first birthday, Linda gifted her a tiny leather-bound journal, identical to the one Daniel had given Maya years earlier. Inside she wrote, "For all the adventures you'll have, and all the hearts you'll touch." Meanwhile, the diner continued thriving under Sarah and James's care. They expanded the menu, added outdoor seating, and hosted monthly events celebrating local artists and musicians. But no matter how much the space evolved, its essence remained unchanged. A haven for connection, storytelling, and healing. Tourists still visited to hear tales of Maya, Daniel, and Linda, often leaving notes of gratitude or inspiration on the wall of hope. Some even brought gifts, photographs, trinkets, or mementos that added layers of meaning to the diner's rich history. One crisp autumn morning, as golden leaves swirled outside, Maya returned to the diner with Evelyn nestled snugly in a stroller. It had been months since her last visit, and stepping inside felt like coming home. The smell of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the sound of laughter, creating an atmosphere as comforting as ever. Sarah greeted her warmly, ushering her to her favorite booth by the window. "How does it feel to be back?" Sarah asked, setting down a plate of pancakes and hot chocolate, the same order Maya had requested as a child. Maya smiled, glancing at Evelyn sleeping peacefully beside her. "It feels right," she replied softly. "No matter where life takes me, this place will always be part of who I am." As she sipped her hot chocolate, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From the shy, uncertain girl counting coins at the counter to the confident woman building a legacy of love and compassion. Each chapter of her story had been shaped by the people in this room. Daniel, who had fought tirelessly to earn her trust. Linda, whose quiet acts of kindness had carried her through dark times. And the countless strangers turned friends who had reminded her of humanity's goodness. Years later, when Evelyn was old enough to ask questions, Maya brought her to the diner to share the story of how it all began. Sitting in the same booth where she had once sat alone, Maya recounted the day a Rolls-Royce parked outside and changed her life forever. She spoke of Daniel's return, Linda's unwavering support, and the ripple effect of kindness that had touched countless lives, including their own. Evelyn listened intently, her big brown eyes wide with wonder. When Maya finished, she handed her granddaughter the leather-bound journal Linda had given her. "This is your story to write," she said gently. "But remember, every act of kindness matters. Every choice you make can create ripples far beyond what you imagine." As Evelyn clutched the journal tightly, Maya looked out the window watching the sunlight dance across the street. The diner buzzed with life around her, laughter, chatter, and the occasional clink of dishes. But her heart was calm. She knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, the lessons she had learned here would guide her and her family through. In that moment, Maya realized something profound. The diner wasn't just a physical space. It was a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times there is always light waiting to shine through. And as long as people continued gathering here, to share meals, stories, and dreams, the spirit of Maple Street would endure, touching lives for generations to come.